Well, I'm working on the Festiva again, and we're going to do some pretty weird stuff today, so I figured I would do a video. The Festiva doesn't have heat or AC. All the AC parts were removed a very long time ago, except for the evaporator core, and somebody snipped the aluminum lines for those. So it's not savable. The heater core leaks. The only way to properly fix that is to pull the dash on the Festiva, which isn't that big of a deal, but if you know me at all or watch my videos, you'll know that I had spinal fusion not too long ago. And some things are a lot harder than others to do and also to recover from. So I can do most things, but yeah, anyway, the extra work of pulling a dash is going to be pretty hard to do by myself. And our shop is full right now, so I can't really bring it up there. So what we're going to do is something that I saw a guy on Facebook do. Super cool idea. Let me turn the camera around and I'll show you what we got. Okay, so on the Festiva, there is a heater box which houses the blower motor and the heater core and most of the valves. And then there is a fresh air box slash evaporator core box, which is what I've pulled out right here. This comes out very easy. You just pull the glove box out in a few bolts and you can remove the assembly. So this is that box. This is actually upside down. And it houses the heater core, or sorry, not the heater core, the evaporator. So here's the evaporator. Not only is mine absolutely disgusting and has no flow at all, but as you can see, somebody's chopped the lines on it. So, not savable, but the good news is a heater core, this is the actual heater core, like the original one, really isn't that much smaller as far as height, length and height. Now the width is a big difference, but the outlet pipes are actually the same orientation and spacing as the evaporator, and it matches up perfectly to the lines through the firewall. These two holes actually slide right through the firewall where the evaporator used to be. So what I'm gonna do is put a heater core in the evaporator box. That's what I've got all this foam out here for, and glue, and I've got some foam seals and stuff like that. So we're gonna rebuild the fresh air box. We're gonna put new foam on the flapper and around all that, and then we're gonna use this black foam here to make spacing so that we can mount the heater core in the evaporator box. So I would love to put it right here if that will work. Obviously the spacing isn't going to be perfect, so I've got to figure out if that's possible, because I would really love to use the factory holes in the firewall and not have to cut up any of that mess. So there are those two holes right there. Those are the grommets for them. If I could not cut a new hole here, that would be fantastic. Leave the Festiva metal, all in the same condition that it's in now. So Texas Festiva, 0 rust. It would be great not to hack it up. But we'll hack up this plastic box because they're easy to get to, easy to replace. And if for some reason I ever wanted to put AC in this car, I could just drop the glove box and go buy an evap box. Another good note to this is that Festivas only have the ability to put heat out on the floor or the defrost. It's impossible to get it out of the vents. And this will let me do that, which would be kind of interesting. So, I'll have the switch on cold, but obviously it'll be putting heat out in any of the areas that I want to. So anyway, I'm not going to do a full how-to video, but I figured I'd bring you guys along. So as I build this box, you can see how I do it, how I orient things. I'll also put a link in the description to the Facebook post that I saw that gave me this idea, because this is not my idea. But anyway, I'm going to get started, and we'll see how weird we can get. Okay, so I've just been cutting up some of this black foam here to fill these little gaps. You can see there's some there. There's like little divots in the bottom, and you don't want the air to pass through that. So I've cut up these little pieces, and I've used headliner glue to glue them in place. And right now I'm working on this little side piece here that's going to keep the heater core centered and spaced right where we want it. And so the glue is setting on that. You can see I've just kind of cut out a little cavity with a razor knife, and yep, a lot of this is going to be kind of rough for a little bit until I get everything fit, and then it'll look a whole lot nicer once it's actually in place, hopefully. So what I chose to do, instead of cutting a little bit of the top box and a little bit of the bottom box, was just cut the bottom box. And you can see I was unable to use the original cutout. It just wasn't going to come out in the right spot and have the heater core where I wanted it. So this is the piece that I removed right here. I just used an oscillating tool and then a razor blade to cut off the bottom there. So the heater core will sit more towards the bottom, and then I'll make foam up here on the top to space that out. But yep, this is pretty much how it's looking. See, that glue is kind of everywhere, but yep, making progress. Okay, this is how the box is looking right now. You can see these ports, and yeah, they're supposed to be weird and kind of off like that. But anyway, you can kind of see how the box is going to sit. Extra foam in there. I'll cover this up with some Dynamat or something, and then I'll make a little block off with that with like a license plate, and then some more Dynamat. But anyway, here's the heater core. You can see it sits a little low in the box, and I decided to do that, like I said, so I wouldn't have to cut into this top piece. I want to cut as little of this box as possible. I know it seems silly, but anyway. So the heater core is sitting down inside there, and now I just need to make a spacer for the top here. So I'll fill those little gaps that you can see, those little divots, kind of like I did on the bottom, and then I'll use a long flat piece on top of the heater core, and then that should do it. So that should finish our little box out here, but that's how it's looking. Alright, so I've cut these little pieces, just 4 little thin strips. They're going to lay down inside here, so that way I have a flat surface on the top of the box, and then I'll just set this on top of there, and then I'll try to measure this gap and see how long of a single solid piece I need to lay across here, and that should finish it up. So I'm going to spray this. This is what I'm using, Permatex headliner glue. I'm sure you can use anything, super glue or whatever, but that stuff doesn't melt foam, so that's why I'm specifically using it here. A lot of super glues and other kind of stuff will melt this foam, and RTVs and things like that take too long to dry, so that's why I'm using it. Alright, so I've got my last pieces for the top spacing here cut, and I've got some glue setting. So right now we're going to work on the flapper for the fresh air door, the recirculate door. So you're going to need to cut out 2 pieces of foam just like this. I'll put a link in the description on where to get the stuff that has the right thickness and whatnot. And what happens is this little flapper is supposed to have that foam on it from the factory. Well, it wears away, so air just bleeds past this. And then the other spot we're going to replace is up here on top. So there's supposed to be a foam gasket around here. This is what that one looks like. So we're going to put that on there also. And if this one's worn out on your car, which it is, you'll always get outside air coming in. Whether that's hot air and you're trying to use AC, or it's cold air and you're trying to get heat. The air will just go right past this and into your car. It won't necessarily go in the box unless the foam is also bad on the flapper. But anyway, you'll be getting air that you don't want in the car all the time. So one of the best ways to remove this adhesive, just scrape it off with a gasket, scrape it with a flathead screwdriver, and brake clean works really well too. Side note, the brake clean is also a really good way to remove this spray-on adhesive from your fingers because it's going to get all over them. So anyway, once you have this cut out, I think what was it, 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, something like that. But I just stuck the tape measure inside here, measured this area. So we'll get these placed in here on either side. That will make our flapper seal up like it's supposed to, and then I'll put the seals on top here. And I'm just doing that while this glue is drying pretty much. So I've got the box pretty much complete. Everything's sealed up. I just put this last piece here on top, just a little bit of glue down there, and then I'm gonna sandwich it all together. So this is how it looks in there. You can do yours different, of course. I mean, everybody may have different preferences on how they want to lay this out, but this will give you a general idea of what it's gonna look like inside here. So I'll go ahead and leave the camera rolling while I try to mash this all together. Hopefully everything's not too sticky to go back together without getting all over everything. So I'm just gonna kind of spread the sides of this box. There we go, so I can push it on there. And I made everything a little bit too big inside. That way I know that it's going to seal up when I push it down on here. We'll just mush all that foam into place. You don't want to make it exactly the right size because what will happen is eventually that foam will shrink or just compress over time. So definitely just make it a tiny bit too big. So I'm going to stick a couple of these clips on. Then I can look inside, see how everything looks. If it looks good, then I'll stick the rest of the clips on. Yeah, I think it is good. I guess if you really wanted to, you could like shine a light through from the other side. But let me pull the camera up here so you can see inside the box, see how everything looks. So all sealed up, top and bottom and sides. The only part I didn't put foam was this side over here because there was already a little bit, and I feel like it was enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll put the rest of these clips on, then I'll seal up the outside of the box right here. Like I said, I think I'll put just like a piece of license plate or something in here, and then I'll put some Dynamat over it. So I'm going to finish putting those clips on there. I went ahead and I put the foam pieces on the flapper, so on both sides. So now that's going to seal up, and next up I'm going to put the foam ring around here. All right, well, the heater box is done, the new heater box. So you can see there, I went ahead and patched that hole. I did put a piece of license plate on the inside, and then I stuck a piece of butyl tape over it, or Dynamat, whatever you want to call it. Then we went ahead and matted the outside, and then I stuck a piece around these pieces right here. I don't think they were going to leak. The seal was pretty tight, but why not go ahead and stick one in there? So we'll take a look inside here. As you can see, everything is nice and sealed up, top to bottom, and all the sides. And then we've got all the new clips around the outside. So yeah, we're pretty much done with this box. The last thing that we've got to do, now that we have the fresh air duct resealed on the inlet and on the flapper, is we actually need to reseal the section that goes around here. And this is not going to be the same seal that we used up top. It is much thinner of a fit. So what we're going to have to do on that one, I don't have the proper like long piece rolled up like we used for that because it's much too thin. So what we're actually going to do, I think, is use this, and I'm just going to custom cut it to pretty much go all around this. Well, I finished up the project here. As you can see, I've got new foam all around this piece, and good note, it is the perfect thickness. It is a very good fit. Just putting one round of foam just on this piece right here. All right, so to decide where we're going to cut our new hole, pretty much what you want to do is take some measurements from about this center line, see how far away this is, and then take this center line and see how far away this is right here. So mine ended up being about 2 1/4 and 2 1/4, so that's where we need to move our new holes. Instead of using a hole saw or something, which would have been kind of difficult, what I did was just used an oscillating tool, and I marked down inside there. I just used the existing first hole and made my new measurements down there. So you can see I just finished cutting this piece, so we're just going to remove it from the inside. I'll use a razor knife to cut the insulation there. And then we should be able to put our box in, and we can fill that gap with some Dynamat or something like that. The same thing that I'm going to do for right here. So I don't know, maybe we can use these grommets too for something, but I just don't think they're going to seal up very well. If we stuck them here, I mean, Dynamat won't stick to that. So I'll just put a single piece of Dynamat there, and then I'm sure we'll just work it around this area right there. Okay, so up in the cab, you can see I've covered the old evaporator holes here, and I've also covered them on the engine bay side. And then I've got this new hole cut right here. So this matting is really hard to cut, so be super careful when you're cutting it that you don't like slip and cut your finger off with like a utility knife or whatever you're using. So now all we've got to do is just put this box back in here. One thing you're going to want to do is make sure you loosen up the clamp that's on this thing right here. That's an 8mm or 5/16. It's going to make putting everything back together a whole lot easier, being able to manipulate this and move it around. So, yep, that's what we're going to do next to get it all back in. Everything is back together. We have our new heater core installed in the evaporator box. All that's left to do now is just run our heater core lines to it. So I've already got my heater core bypassed. I know you can't really see it down inside there. So you have a couple options. You can barb into the existing lines and then connect there. You can run new lines from both locations to there, and then it's up to you if you want to just leave them connected all the time, or if you want to put in a couple T-valves. So I'm going to put in a couple ball valves, because it doesn't really get that cold in Texas, and it doesn't stay cold for very long. I just did it for a little bit. But what you can do, you could run just lines there all the time, because now your fresh air and recirc valve will work if you resealed it with those flat panel pieces. So you could just leave it on recirculate and leave coolant running through there all the time, and it shouldn't affect anything. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Down in the description, I'm going to put a link to the original post on where I found out about this modification, and I'll also put links in the description for the different foam seals that you need for the rebuild. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you soon.